have the home. And so the cause right now is not important. What's important is my personal cause. So the me, the my, and the I mentality is what's governing us today, which is why, as a people, we don't have any momentum.
But here's my problem with that. I just don't understand that thought process because, I agree. They're definitely looking at, what they can make for their families, but do they not sit around and look at the skin color of the people that they are playing with? If the NFL, now Kaepernick did his thing and a lot of players, kneeled in solidarity, but just like you were talking about the Montgomery bus boycotts, that strengthened numbers. So many people stopped riding the bus that it became a problem with the business.
Absolutely.
If every black player in the NFL said, I'm not showing up to this game until I see something done, do you know they'd be throwing millions of dollars at them? They wouldn't have an NFL without us.
Now, here's the
So
thing.
why do they not think about that?
And I hear what you're saying, Ambezi. I really do. But you must understand the perspective of that person that says, I've arrived.
Right.
I am living out my dream. I get a chance to play on Sundays in front of millions of people. This is what I've been waiting on all my life. Their cause is priority, okay, within themselves, okay? And so you are right. If every person who believed in the cause that Kaepernick is embracing, I'm telling you, you will begin to see a lot of momentum and change in the NFL, in sports, period. Okay.
Right.
However, that shows you that people don't have courage to stand for what they believe in.
Right.
When you look at a LeBron James, he can say what he want to say. He can do what he want to do. Why? Because he has the leverage. He's
Right.
worth $500 million. He makes more than the president of the United States of America.
Sure
So
does.
he has leverage to say what he wanted to say and do what he want to do. But the average college player who is being drafted and he's now in summer camp and playing preseason football, he's trying to get a check. And some of these guys are saying to themselves, I cannot jeopardize this opportunity for me to live out my dream. And so you're not going to get 100% agreement because everybody, watch this, they may believe in the cause. However,
They won't act on it.
they don't act on it because they feel like that's not my fight right now. My fight is to get out of the struggle. My fight is to get my mom out of that 1-bedroom apartment,
Right.
that 2-bedroom house. My fight is to make it in life. And so that becomes the individual's priority. And so, I mean, I understand that. I really do understand that because what you do to a Mr. Reed and a Kaepernick, these guys were almost blackballed from the NFL.
Yep.
And they're not playing anymore, and they're exercising their constitutional rights. They're not doing anything illegal, but because people don't agree with what they're doing, they're cut off their livelihood. And me as a young player is looking at that, and I'm saying, no, I got to eat. Everybody want to eat.
Right.
Everybody want to eat. So I just feel like when we're dealing with this, I do want to say this, Mbz and Chief, that the NFL is a corporation, right? It's a organization. Teams are corporations and organizations. Kaepernick took a knee not as a team. He
But
took
as
a
an
knee
individual.
as an individual.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily what the 49ers agreed with or whatever team he was playing for at the time. It doesn't necessarily they agree with him, but as a man and a human being, he has rights.
Right.
And he did that. He did his due diligence. He asked individuals, what can I do to take a stance in a peaceful, respectful manner? He did that, and it is still being disrespected and not honored today. And many players are not grabbing hold of it because they do not want their bottom line
Taken away.
interrupted.
And let's be honest here. especially these kids who have never seen. I mean, they're seeing more in these contracts that they've seen than they've seen in their whole lives. So, and I think another misconception. Now, I still stand strong in my perspective, but just touching on what you're saying. One thing that people don't understand outside of the sports world. I mean, you understand and I understand because I'm super into that stuff. But the players are not the only ones making these decisions either.
Right.
They have agents. They have people who are probably advising them as well. Like, hey, kid, you see all this money? You ain't going to get this money if you keep taking that knee.
Right.
And so then it becomes real, like, dang, this guy who helped me get this contract is saying I'm not finna make this money if I keep taking this knee. I guess Cap got it.
And you have sponsors.
Right.
And you have sponsors now.
Yep.
And you're under contract. And there is a character clause in there. There are certain things that you can and cannot do. And so these NFL players know what they've signed up for. And some of them don't want to breach the contract because it will interrupt how they're being paid. Not only by the NFL exclusively, but the gym shoe contracts and the soda pop contracts,
Right.
and all of those things. And I believe that people are considering that before they take a stance that could literally shift
Cut
and
everything
change
off.
the trajectory of their lives.
I agree.
That's my argument with that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we have another caller. The line is hot today. So what is this caller? What does this caller have for us? Who
Caller.
are we talking to?
You're on the air.
This is Darren
How you doing, Brother Darren?
from Los Angeles.
Okay, Darren from Los Angeles.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was, Pastor C, do you think that the community around these players needs to assist in helping those players make that decision? I know you were talking about the economic situation that those players that are either on scout teams or they're not making the money that LeBron James is making as an individual. And in the NFL, it's a little different because the emphasis there is more on team than it is on the individual player.
Yes, sir.
But do you think that the communities around these athletes needs to rally together? In the 60s, when those athletes from the 60s, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, those guys, they had the community supporting them,
Yes,
helping
sir.
to protest with them. I think it would make it easier for these young men to be able to make that decision to stand up, even if there was an economic result of it, if they knew that the community around them was going to support them and continue to protest with them. The one thing that the NFL does not like is to have controversy.
Yes.
When they're going on.
That's
If the
correct.
community, if activists for civil rights and activists for the community would go and protest at games outside the stadium, those kind of narratives are the things that will be able to have those young men be able to make the decision a little easier.
I believe that.
By having that support from their communities and having people come in and say, listen, I'm with you on this. I know it's a hard struggle and a sacrifice for you, but I'm with you on that. And we're going to support you continually if you support us.
One of the greatest problems I believe that we have, period, is division. And I totally agree with you. If the community, if our politicians and those who agree would make a stand and stand with and lock arms with these young men, I truly believe that we'll see much more momentum. But I just that's a conversation for another day, because there's so much division in our communities today. Individuals don't, as long as it don't hit my address, it doesn't concern me. However, it does concern you. Some people will not get involved until it's their child. Some people won't get involved until it's their job. And I think that when we begin to see that if one of us is affected, all of us are affected, then we can really get together and get in agreement and have influence and really see some change for our community. So to answer your question, yes, I truly believe that the community, the politicians, the pastors, the churches, and everybody in every sport, in every genre, should really get a hold of this thing and stand with those individuals who are on the front line. So yes, sir, I agree with that.
Well, Pastor Singh, that's my question then. How do we as individuals, how do we set that up? Do we go through our churches? Do we go, and say, okay, at my church, we're going to have a rally or we're going to have something and bring other churches together and maybe bring some of these to these rallies, and say, okay, this is how we're going to help you in the communities. This is how we're going to get, the information out to the public by and assisting you. Is something that, where do we start with that? And I know that's a whole other topic, like you said, getting that done, because there's so much divisiveness within our community. But that is the narrative that has been set for us since slavery.
Yeah.
If you divided us, that's why our families were pulled apart.
Yes.
During slavery times, because they knew there was strength in numbers, and if they were united, then they would not be able to do the things they could do to us.
Yes.
But that being said, we still have that somewhat of that slave mentality where it's all about me, self-preservation so much, to where how do we get across that? And how do we cross that bridge into the other side where we can get back to where we were in the 1960s? Because I think at some point we kind of lost that. Once we got a little taste of success. We started seeing more celebrities coming out. We started seeing some of our economic base grow, and everyone calmed down. It was almost like they just threw us a biscuit, and and that, here you go, that's it. So just be quiet now. But as you know, with the inflammatory things that have happened in the last 2 or 3 years with this new president and his base, now we're in a situation to where it's not only us, but it's the Hispanic community as well.
Yes, sir.
And we have to understand and figure that out. That's one of the things I wanted to hear from you, maybe Chief, and maybe MBZ can maybe even elaborate a little bit more on too. Maybe that's another subject for another day. I don't know. But that's my question is, I understand how the protests work. I understand how those young men make that decision, whether they go, one way or the other, or whether they protest or don't because of the economic situations. But how do we support them to make the decision easier for them to unite with us?
And I believe that number one, we have to refresh where we've come from.
Absolutely.
We have to revisit history, because history does tell a story, but it helps us to see what individuals sacrificed for us. Sacrificed their lives, their health, for the cause. And if we can revisit that and then begin to teach that, and I do believe that it begins in the churches, it begins in our homes, so that people can rally. See, the problem is we can't rally without having comprehension. We must understand. We got to understand the cause. And we're dealing with a generation today, millennials. A lot of them don't even know their history. Why? Because the history of the black man is not even being taught in schools anymore.
Nope.
Okay? So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, I agree. I think the foundation is with our youth. I think we need to make sure that our youth are able to understand just what you said, where they come from.
Yes.
And obviously, it's not getting done in our public schools or or any schools of that faction at all. But I think again, that comes back to community centers. It comes back to churches, all